Scott, are you logged in?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's get started. Welcome to our webinar. Thanks for signing up. My name is Clay Reese. I am Director of Operations for BoviSync. We want to cover a lot of info today. Please post your questions in the chat. We'll try to reach out at the end, or we'll follow up after the presentation. Let me introduce my co-presenter, Scott Munoz. Scott, do you want to share what you do at BoviSync?
Yes, I help both farms and their consultants create BoviSync reports for herd analysis. I work with the farm owners, key managers, and their consultants in BoviSync report training and analytics. As always, I'm continuing to learn about the program and learn what is important to farm owners regarding their herd of cows.
Are you keeping busy during this quarantine, Scott?
Definitely. It's all about report creation. There has been an uptick in training sessions, and I'm also working with our implementation team on remote setups. There always seems to be reports to make and forward to customers.
So one of the things that I wanted to cover is things that people encounter when they first start working with the software. And the support staff found out about the webinars we were doing, and they wanted to make sure that we covered some real basic tasks. It seems like the same things just keep repeating themselves. So we're going to cover some common questions real quick, and I apologize to anyone who has experience with the software, but the first place to start is, how do I get in? I got a herd with BoviSync. How do I get in? I want to cover access quickly by demonstrating account creation and then permission granting. So this is just an example how to create an account yourself. If you go to bovisync.farm, you can create an account, and this is really the best way to make sure that when a farm grants you permission, you'll be able to get into the farm in order to support that farm. So if you create the account, then when the email gets put into the farm, you will definitely have permissions to access that farm. So it's pretty simple. You don't have to have access or anything. Just go to bovisync.farm. If you've never logged in, then you'll come up with this screen, and then it'll give you the stuff to add your account. There'll obviously be a email that you have to verify after you create the account. So this is just the main screen. And if you don't have any farms, there won't be anything in the create farm at the top. The second method is to add a permission on the farm settings for the farm. So if you're out at the farm and you already have access, or it's the first farm you're working with, this is a great and simple way to do it. Just make sure that you're quick about verifying it. So just add a permission at the bottom. And if you don't have an account with BoviSync, what will happen is that the email will show up under the username and the person. So it'll be the same on both sides, and we'll see that here. See how the both emails there? This account hasn't been verified yet. So we have to go to our email, and once we verify the account, whenever someone adds that email, then that email will always add you to the farm. From a security standpoint, only the first email clicked can create an account. Before adding additional farm permissions, make sure that account has been created. So basically, on a lot of farms, some of the larger farms, they might have multiple farms set up. Like maybe they have a heifer grower and they have a farm. They have to add you to each one of them in order to access those animals sometimes. So what you want to do is make sure that you create that account before you get 2 permissions sent out, because only one of them will work. So just real quick, how to add permission. You need to be a farm admin, and this is the same as adding the request the first time. So essentially, we just have to go to the farm setup page, go to the farm access, enter the email address of the account we want to add. So usually this will be a member of the farm management team. A lot of times people will request a BoviSync for accessing the farm. We always will send back a email instructions on how the farm admins can add that, because it's really important that the people at the farm of access are controlling who has access to their farm. Note that the access level can determine whether or not a user can modify any data, enter events, modify IDs, or even add other users. So real quick, when we log into the farm, we can choose to open a herd. But in addition, when we open this screen, we'll have the herds that we have access to. In this demo, I have access to 3 different herds. But then there's some more options that you should consider when you log in. And they all have different meaning. I think they're pretty simple. But when we go into the multiple farms, then we can select multiple farms to compare against each other in reports. A really useful feature I think is underutilized. In addition, we have the ability to do some own by. So if we want to look at a subset of animals at a heifer grower or another farm, we can do that. Any animals owned by a farm can be included in reports no matter where they're located. Combinations of farms and ownership create the ability to manage permissions. In addition, session and report reference dates will change values and animals assessed. So to kind of start, one of the first places that I would like to cover is the breeding intensity. This is one of the questions that we get from a lot of Repro people when it first comes up. We'll send out a white paper explaining this in greater detail after the webinar. So essentially, when you load the breeding insemination, and that's on the website, if you go under user accounts, and we'll see that later, but essentially you get to the breeding intensity and you put your settings in, then you'll come up with a graph like this. And that top line is an insemination risk, followed by pregnancy risk, conception rate, and abort rate at the bottom. And I think one of the big distinctive things about this is that it's calculated on a daily basis. And what that really means is that essentially every single animal has her eligibility kind of marked out on a day-by-day basis. And essentially we're just summing them all back up to get the daily averages. So we have the ability to put it in a graph, and I think this is more similar to what we've looked at for a long time in other software. But essentially, these are just the sum totals of all those individual animals. So instead of it being a discrete group of animals in each 21-day period, there is really just going to be a combination of animals that overlap each other. So generally speaking, on the 923 cohort, there's 330 animals eligible, but really what it means is that there were 330 animals that had days equivalent. So you add up all the days and you divide it by the 21-day period. We also have the ability to make it into 30-day periods, and we can set the abort minimum and determine whether or not they were pregnant in the first place. So we're going to cover some reports. We're going to focus on conception rates and some other reports that we see a lot of. Scott is going to jump in and take over the presentation and kind of walk us through how the conception rate reports work. So just a moment for Scott. Scott, you got your mic up.
Sorry about that. Okay, it's real common with AI technicians now wanting to show who's coming in with beef and who's coming in with Holstein. And this will give us the report. We want to break it down into certain date range. 42 for the last 9 months, we're going to do 42 to 305. We want to fetch this report. And we see here there's some unknowns. in that. Here we have a breeding summary by breeding number, event number, this lactation for the same type. You can see here event number for lactation of same type and using the breeding summary aggregate. Fetch that report, and here you come up with the number. Here we're doing it by breeding summary by technician. We're actually setting a date range here, or a session date. And this report is going to be for the last 9 months. A new session date, today is March 23rd. We're looking back from February 17th. As you see, it was by reason for breeding. Actually, we're going on to the next report here, having to do with compliance. As Repro consultants, you want to make sure that shots are being given. Here we have the protocols will create the chores. The chores are completed, then they become events. So the chores that are not completed versus the events become the compliance rate. In this scenario here, there is a total of 7 shots that were not given out of a total of 352. So this report here can tell you how compliant the farm is with getting the shots in on time.
Scott, just kind of dig in a little bit deeper here on that previous slide. The compliance is something I think is really underutilized in a lot of the farms using BoviSync, and I think it's probably one of the really strong assets we have because, again, you can see on this farm, they have 3 different protocols that they had in this example, and we can see really what's going on in that dairy. And this really shows the benefit of recording everything as a transaction and also using the mobile technology and how important that is for just making sure that we're compliant. Thanks, Scott.
Yep. This next report will show us the percent of the herd that is pregnant. It's utilizing an animal report. Today, as we're using today's date, we're looking at in a 2x2 table. It basically is giving us a false or a true on whether they're pregnant. In this case, there is 1,220 total animals with that. This particular report is showing us beef semen versus conventional semen. The percentage across the top, if this was sex semen, we would see a 0.86 for percentage of the sex semen. This is telling us how many cows are going to be due, I should say cows and heifers are going to be due in each of those months. This is done through the live dairy herd profitability, and that's where we get the percentages. Here's the number of cows open with days greater than 150. We're putting a cutoff in here of 150 to 200 to 305, and we're catching cows that fit that days in milk. Here's a heifer crop projection, both in a bar chart and a line graph. What it's taken into account is live dairy heifer profitability and then the due date. So for those that like to see some of this information in pictures rather than numbers, it gives you that. I think I jumped forward a little bit here. Go back to this here. Next report is, get it started here. Next report is showing us.
This is the example to save the report right now, right? So we're going to save the report. So just kind of going back over what we're trying to show here is a lot of questions about the user reports and farm reports. Whenever you log into BoviSync, the first time, you're going to want to save reports to your user account, and we have the ability to save reports to a user account. So if you're logged into a farm and you want to save a report, generally speaking, unless you're an admin, you can only save them to the user account. No one else can see those, and you're not going to cause any problems at the farm if you save that. What's interesting is when you log into a different farm, that report will be available to work across all of your farms. So I'm going to take over the screen here. Just a second. Let's get out of that. So each browser is effectively a different web app. And not only can you save them into the user reports, we also have the option of just saving the actual hyperlink. And that uniform code, URL code at the top, if you save and bookmark that, that literally can be used anywhere. And one of the things that I find really helps save time is if I can load the tabs of all the reports that I want to look at for my farms, I can effectively save them to a folder in any browser. And then when I want to look at them again, I can just open that entire folder all at once. So in this example, it just saves a lot of time because we can open up 15 reports as opposed to just trying to open them individually. So today we just covered basically animal and event modules of the report system. We have the ability to do test day data, parlor data, and bulk tanks, and we can take it with you. You can take it with you. You can export from the web browser into Excel. You can do downloads to any computer with our data client, and that's available for any person that has a user account in BoviSync. And a lot of people ask if they want to use the Android app to actually do the program or to access the farm data. And the Android app is really specific for farm entry. It's not well suited to going across different farms and loading it. It's really meant to just load a farm and use it on that farm. However, the browsers are responsive, the web app is, so you can use the web app on any phone, iPhone, Android. Coming soon, and we're really excited about some of the developments we've had with the API, and that'll allow us to interact with CRMs and other software that's out there, and be extremely beneficial to the herds that we work with. And we're also working on team access, so producers can give access to companies as a group and a team, and the company can then manage their permissions to all those farms. We're also really excited about updates coming to our report system. We obviously are continuing to invest money in developing better software and creating a better user experience. One of the things that is frustrating for some users is the web pages having to query the server again, and sometimes there's a lag. We are really looking at downloading the data once. Once an item is downloaded, then we don't need to query the server anymore, and that's kind of the goal of the new report system. In addition, we're looking at custom calculated items, so that there's we just can't think of all the different items that people want to use. Well, we're going to give people the ability to make their own. Greater flexibility between different report types, essentially being able to bring things together from the animal reports to any other report, handling of animals off site, just making that easier, and greater control of formatting, grouping by column for dates and number formats, etc. Pretty excited about that. So a lot of people get exposed to BoviSync. I think one of our biggest selling points is our app, and I'll just do a really quick demo here. This is just an example of how breeding chores get completed on shot day, and essentially it's pretty straightforward. These are the chores breeding chores do from off-sync protocols. We go in and select the pen, and then we click the animal, put her in the queue, and then we can click it again, and then we can see the animal. She's on an off-sync 56 protocol. And then when we go in and click the animal again in the queue, then we can enter the breeding and get that recorded. And what's nice is that, given the cost of the device and the licensing, every single breeder can have their own phone, and we really can drive compliance on the dairy. So I think that's pretty exciting. You also see the semen tank feature being used. So we're working very hard to schedule additional webinars. It seems like there's a lot of interest in kind of covering some of the topics. You send us an email, let us know what you wanted to cover us, like us on Facebook. We're going to continue to try to do some stuff there. I think we might even try some things with live on Facebook. If you have a farm that needs BoviSync, please let us know. We'd love to give them a personal demo and explain the benefits of the software. So real specifically, real quick, feel free to contact Scott or I. These are emails, and some emails for support. If you work with a herd, we're happy to help and direct you to some of the resources. In addition, we have a growing knowledge base that's available. Support.bovisync.com is a knowledge base. Training.bovisync.com provides free courses for people to learn more about using BoviSync. www.bovisync.com kind of talks about what BoviSync is, and we do some blog entries there. And bovisync.farm is where the web app is. So we got some questions here. I'll try to cover them now. Can you please revisit which report you were using to monitor breeding protocol compliance? Could you forward it to me, please? As I said, we'll send that out. It's a really simple report. And all we're doing is doing a 2x2 table of the specific event that we want to see on that day by whether it's an event or chore. So just really simple on how to get that up. Do we have any other questions from the audience today? I think one of the nice things about BoviSync is the ability to do the point and click model. So we have so many reports put out there. Once you kind of understand what it is, then it's relatively easy to modify the report. And I think that was one of the things we kind of hoped to expose people to. Those session rate reports, they're essentially the same report, except we just switch which item we're summing by. And clearly one of the features that I'm really excited about in the new report system is the ability to do multiple buys. I think we'll be able to do 4 at a time would be a goal in the very near future. So, Scott, you got anything else to add?
No, I've been actually responding to some of the questions privately, and I'll be emailing those individuals the link to that compliance report.
And we will send out a link to the video after the webinar and links that we use to everyone who got in the system. And again, if you know that you're going to be working with a farm for BoviSync, talk to them about getting access if you don't already have access. You're free to create your own account anytime. And if you go to BoviSync.com, you can get on to the public demo farm. Thanks, everybody, for your time today. I really appreciate it.